right, let's be honest. Wearing pants sucks. Why should we be stuck in stiff jeans crushing our family jewels? Well, those days are over thanks to Public Rec. They got the deal maker pants, and let me tell you, these feel like sweatpants but look like jeans. You get that 5-pocket style, but all the comfort that you need to go from work to play, no problem. These pants are made with their Workday 2.0 fabric. Wind and water resistant, so they're built to handle whatever you got going on. Clean, classic, and comfortable. These are gonna be your new everyday pants. I've been switching between the deal maker and the day maker pants, and I pair them with the go-to tee, and trust me when I tell you, it's the perfect fit. Plus, Public Rec will let you pick your exact size, waist, and length. None of that small, medium, large nonsense. And with 10 color options, you can find your perfect look. Stop suffering in regular pants. Right now, you get 20% off with code Chael at checkout. That's 20% at publicrec.com. Make sure you use code Chael at checkout. Or, to make it easier, just click below. Alex Pereira says he is a greater victory for Jon Jones than Tom Aspinall. Now, there's a couple of ways, because I want your opinion on this. That's a fascinating claim that I cannot dismiss. But if I was to ask you, what is the bigger name, meaning the bigger victory, and you're trying to look in the future and fight fans as they reflect back. Okay, so I would then have a question to ask you, which is the harder fight? And that answer might not be the same. And it's where things start to get complicated. I believe Tom Aspinall is good enough to be world champion. But with some people, I'm going to have to argue that. I don't have to argue with Pereira. He is the world champion. I think Tom Aspinall could be champion and hold that for a period of time. But if we stop right now, I'm gonna have to argue that. With Pereira, it's already happened. Now, Aspinall is simply too big and beautiful to be able to make multiple weight classes. But Pereira isn't, and did, all the way to the championship. It's an interesting fight. If we were to take Jon Jones and put him with Tom Aspinall right now, you would have Hogan versus Warrior, which is right when both guys have a belt. Two guys are both champions, and they come together. That's a big deal. But if I was to do Jon Jones and Pereira, I would have the same thing. I would have two champions. And size is such an interesting part of the Aspinall-Jones story. John's entire reason for going to heavyweight was to spot somebody some pounds. So that there would at least be a perception that an advantage goes to the opponent. That would be very real if he got in there with Tom. That would be very, very real. Which could also be used as an excuse after the fact. Right? If you're trying to look to the future, trying to guess how these debates are going to go, that would not happen with Pereira. It would be the two greatest light heavyweights of all time fighting to solve who is the greatest light heavyweight of all time. Oh, and by the way, you got another special prize, which is the most perennial division of combat, the heavyweight class, and that belt is on the line. Like, it's a really interesting match. I mean, ultimately what I'd be asking you, because if you just give your answer or your opinion, it's a popularity contest. If you say Pereira's a bigger win than Aspinall, then if I was to ask you a subsequent question, who do you like more between Pereira and Aspinall, 100% of you will then say Pereira. And if I asked you what's a bigger fight for Jon Jones, Aspinall or Pereira, and you say Aspinall, if I asked you a subsequent question of who are you a bigger fan of, Aspinall or Pereira, you would be with Aspinall. So it clouds the way you look at it slightly. So here's the scenario, okay? You're the promoter. It's your money. It's your investment. How many tickets can you sell versus X? How many tickets can you sell versus Y? And you're going to for sure use Z. Z meaning Jon Jones. Do you put him in there for your family, for your financial, for your future? Do you put him in there with Aspinall, or do you put him in there with Pereira? And that is a damn hard question to answer, isn't it? Isn't it? Now, what if I changed it just slightly? What if I changed the dynamics just slightly? And I said, same deal. You're the promoter. It's your money. It's your reputation, but we're going to do it in a year. A year from now, how confident are you that Tom would have beat the two guys that he would have prior? How confident are you that Pereira would have beat the two guys prior? If you're not confident that either one of them is going to win all of their fight, which fight could you pull out of a hat and walk into a venue 1 year from now and be sure that you could monetize? Like, it gets interesting, doesn't it? And do you guys want to know what my answer is? Would anybody like to hear from Chael? And I'm going to bury my lead just for a minute because I have to preface it with, I don't know if I mean this. I think I do, but I'm not sure I'm following my own code. I don't know that for sure I'm the promoter and my financial is dependent on it. I don't know if I'm following it, because you want to know the biggest fight for me, the one that if I could personally make? It's Pereira versus Aspinall. What do you think of that? And I have my reasons. My reason isn't necessarily a checkers move of that night. My reason is a little bit more of a chess move, but I just believe Jones does not need to, in any walk, fight Aspinall and Pereira. And if Jones is to go out there and beat Aspinall, there is instantly going to be talk that he needs to fight Pereira. Like this is going to be a game that Jon Jones cannot outrun. And he's been trying to. Jon has been trying to whip everybody's ass to make people concede that he's the best. Jon currently is number 2. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He is currently and officially number 2. Islam took the top pound for pound spot. So that is something that does irritate Jon, but it's just never a game that Jon can win. Unless, at least for the short term, unless Pereira and Aspinall fought and Jon just has to fight the winner. If Jon beat the winner of Aspinall-Pereira, the incessant demands by you, the audience, for Jon to fight the other would go away. So, it's one of the reasons I like Aspinall versus Pereira so much. I don't know what the bigger fight is, Jon versus Aspinall, Jon versus Pereira. I know you, the audience, has been very clear that it's Aspinall. But you get real recency bias, right? We came out of New York, and there's Tom in the front row, and he's looking great, and there's Jon, and he just got done, he retired, Stipe, and it's one of these moments where we got to get these guys together. Then, to add fuel on that fire, is Jon went to the press conference and said that he's not going to do it. Jon saying he's not going to fight Aspinall added to the idea of, okay, we got the right guy. It's Aspinall. And Pereira makes an interesting point. Pereira at no point in that attacked Aspinall, but he did. Pereira nowhere said that he is better than Aspinall, but he did. Pereira nowhere in this said, if you give me Tom, I'll beat Tom and work my way to Jones. He didn't say that, but he did. Exactly what he just said. Which again, for me, makes me more interested in Aspinall and Pereira. Now, the one thing that my fight that I'm suggesting for you does not have, it does not have a resistance from either fighter. In fact, these guys already agreed to fight. They even did their own face-off to headline UFC 300. So the fact that we could for sure get this fight and do this fight does psychologically take away from your demand to see the fight. It's tough, right? It's a tough question. But if Pereira's only argument is that his accomplishments and his resume today are greater than the accomplishments and resume of Aspinall, that's an interesting claim. That's a very interesting claim. If you could beat Pereira and whatever his future realistically looks like, or you could have the future of a young Tom Aspinall, I think that you'd rather have the future of Aspinall. I think that. But if you were to freeze the tape today, it's all over, I think you'd want the accomplishments of Pereira. It's very interesting. And the juxtaposition always draws in to Jon Jones. And it makes a level of sense. If Pereira, who's the world champion, is going to go up, he needs to be fighting for a championship. If Aspinall is going to do his next fight, there has to be a belt up. But it could be a defense of the interim championship. And if Pereira went up, it would be for a belt. Because Tom's got one. It's an interesting match. I'm going to tell you my assertion. The biggest fight that we can make right now, I'm going to put forth Aspinall and Pereira. But I will tell you as I ask myself, do I really mean that?